Supper with Stub, supper with Stub, mixing up drinks and making grub, pairing beer and wine with the dishes we love. Come on in and see the spell of Supper with Stub.
Hello friends, welcome to the first very special episode of Supper with Stub, Thanksgiving edition. I'm going to be doing 3 mini episodes over the next couple of weeks leading up to Thanksgiving. And in each episode, I'm going to show you how to make one dish and then give you a beverage pairing suggestion for your Thanksgiving table. Today, we're starting with a classic that I grew up with. I don't know how many people know it. Based on having been in the Marine Corps and made this for several people over a number of years, whom we've hosted at Thanksgiving, it seems to be a very unique thing. We grew up eating this. We called it broccoli rice casserole. Some people have called it broccoli cheese rice casserole. Some people have just called it broccoli casserole. All right, so I've got my pan on a medium-high heat here, this big pot. What I'm adding to that is 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. And I'm just gonna get this around so it starts getting a little heated. Now to that, we are going to add our Velveeta. Now I use Velveeta in this recipe. When I first asked my aunt for this recipe years ago, when the Rib and I were stationed in Okinawa and we were hosting or helping host a Thanksgiving for all the Marines who were overseas at the time, my aunt suggested using Old English cheese sauce in a jar. Well, that was difficult to come by at the time, so I substituted Velveeta, and I think in the recipe, even in the email, and I still have that email, by the way, like the printed out email with this recipe, which I consult when needed, although I don't need to consult this one as much anymore. It actually says in parentheses, Velveeta will do. Well, it's been doing for me based on the popularity for all these years. So you see, we want to heat this up. We want to constantly stir it over this medium-high heat. We don't want to scorch the Velveeta or the soup at all. Now to that, we are going to add our broccoli. Now this is just frozen broccoli. You see I have the florets here. I would normally do chopped. Hey, quite honestly, I picked up the wrong thing, and it's gonna be fine for our purposes here. So basically what we're gonna do is bring this to a low simmer, and basically until this cheese is melted is what we're doing here. So stir this constantly. If it starts bubbling a little bit, turn it down. You know how to simmer things and boil them without scorching, right? I hope so. All right, friends, you can see our cheese is starting to melt just a little bit. What we're going to do is move this over to the other burner over here. We're going to swap that out for a small saute pan that's been preheated just a little bit over a higher fire. We're going to add to that our 1/4 cup of butter. Why? Because everything is better with butter, right? So we're going to melt this butter. All right, you see our butter starting to get a little melted here. To that, we're going to add our onions. And to that, we are going to add our celery. So our onions and celery are simmering up pretty well here. Now what we're going to do is take these, we're going to move our cheese soup broccoli mixture back over and add the onion and celery and butter to this here. Getting it all in. Move that pan over there. We're just going to mix all of this together well. You can see our cheese is mostly melted. That's why I like to cut it up into smaller cubes, as you saw when I dumped that in there. Once again, we want to do this a little slowly here. We're getting nice and creamy. Should start getting just a little bubble on this in just a second here. So once again, you can see everything's nice and incorporated here. The cheese is melted well. The broccoli, as far as the frozen broccoli, keep in mind this is flash steamed and frozen, so it's basically been cooked. All we're doing is basically thawing it out and kind of cooking it in the cheesy, buttery deliciousness of this entire dish here. So we're going to take this off the stove and come over here to our trusty casserole dish and just dump this entire mixture in. And once again, you can see if you use chopped broccoli as I normally do, you're going to get a little more green over top of this, but there's some nice green in here, and everyone getting a scoop of this is going to enjoy a little bit of broccoli, so it's healthy, right? That's the whole thing. All right, kind of even that out over top. We're now going to take and put this in the oven for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. We'll get a little browning around the edges, a little brown on the top. It's going to be delicious. And there it is. Ooey, gooey, bubbly, cheesy deliciousness. All right, so this casserole is nice and hot, but let's go ahead and dive in. Me, myself, I like a corner piece, and look at all that beautiful steam coming off of there. Just enough of that in there. You see this broccoli, once you've stirred it up and cooked it, it actually looks, you know, it breaks up a little much. Once again, use the chopped broccoli if you can. Let's give this side dish a nice little taste. It's everything I remember. I usually make this dish twice a year. All right, so this is a great side dish, a great alternative maybe to a green bean casserole. You're still getting some green veggies in there. Now, let's talk Thanksgiving beverages. Hey, we're starting with beer. Look at that. It's all over the place. What happened? When I think Thanksgiving beer, a lot of times we're going to think seasonal beers, and we're going to think porters, we're going to think darker beers, maybe some stouts. I actually tend to go the other way, and here's why. We're probably going to be drinking with family either the night before Thanksgiving or maybe a little more for longer periods of time on Thanksgiving, so I like a nice light beer, something that's going to be crisp and cut through all these flavors if you decide to have it with your meal. Enter Shiner Light Blonde. It's crisp, it's low alcohol. It's really just a good quality beer, especially if you start watching football early on Thanksgiving. You're going to keep drinking beer. For those beer drinkers out there, this would also accompany this meal. Thanks for joining me for the first episode of the mini episodes for Thanksgiving, a supper with Stub. Tune in next time. We're going to do another side dish, and I will actually suggest a great wine for Thanksgiving with that one. We're going to do a different take on an old favorite. All right, friends, looking forward to Thanksgiving. Hope you're making great plans and to spend time with friends and family. Until next time, stop coveting, start drinking. Cheers.